So hey guys, welcome to this video from AI Gurukul. In this video, we are going to talk about how Gen AI is transforming overall landscape across domain like tech, services, and knowledge workers, as well as its impact on job market. For example, CEO of Amazon recently said there will be fewer jobs required. Today we have with us ex-Amazonian who spent 6.5 years working with Amazon based out of their Seattle office. Anupam has worked with AI space with past 13 years of experience and he has 300 plus citations and 35 research papers. So, hi Anupam, welcome to this podcast. So, what are your opinions about Gen AI and whether it is creating jobs or reducing it?
So, thanks AI Broker team for doing this session. And like I've been following, looking at some of the other recordings also. So, uh, like I think the AI Broker team doing a fabulous job in terms of exploring the overall AI landscape.
Yeah, yes,
And
I want to also mention like it has also a great impact of your work. Like we inspire from your work, and it motivates us to do such amazing work. Yeah, thanks for it.
yeah, so I think in one of your video, like Dr. Lakshman Natraj, okay, he was speaking about generative AI, like on what are all the capabilities it is bringing, okay. Uh, but I think today what we are going to really cover is how is it really impacting the job, okay, whether it is a net creator of jobs or it is net reducing jobs. So see, like the way I look at this entire scenario is uh, any new technology that comes, okay, it creates opportunities, and it sometimes in short run it, like the signals that it gives, okay, people feel that it is going to improve the productivity, and the corporates, okay, sometimes feel that they can really go with this technology, port this technology, and probably bring benefits, okay, so that it will increase the shareholder value, and which is perfectly like the logical way of thinking that for a corporate, okay, for all the corporates, okay, for their CXO, their major value aim is to improve the shareholder equity. Now, the way to do that is, of course, they improve the productivity. Yeah, and yeah, like cost cutting is one thing, okay, but improve the productivity, okay, because that's what if they really are able to prove that in the market, okay, in the share market, through which they can appeal to the shareholders or the investor that they are now really creating, improving productivity, so they are able to do more with less. Okay, then their shareholder value goes up, okay, and it makes their shareholders happy, okay. Well, like the shareholders are people who are like individuals, like common people like you and me, as well as there are shareholders which are institutional shareholders, so they are like other bigger firms, okay, who have some equity holding in these firms, as well as the employees, okay, or the CXOs of that company. So CXOs own a large chunk of the company, okay, because they have a lot of shares. So, well, it is logical for them to really say that, okay, this technology is going to improve productivity, and that will boost investor sentiment and it will improve the shareholder value. So, everyone does that, okay, like it is not limited to like, say, Andy Jassy say talking about that, but yeah, means everyone is talking in a similar way. But uh, when I go back to your question, okay, that whether it is going to create jobs or it is going to reduce jobs, okay. So, I would say that. Yes, it looks like it is reducing the jobs, okay. But with jobs,
Also, as I want to add the one point there, will AI be able to solve the problems independently? Like, will there be a role of human in that? I believe currently there is, but in upcoming few years, do you think there's still human will be required?
yeah. So you bring a very pertinent point. So like if you look at the advancement of large language models and generative AI, like one big uh, current like jump in the performance in of these LLMs happened when the this framework where we are using reinforcement learning using human feedback. He came. Like you're building this model, you're training this model, and you're using human feedback to do that. Well, if you don't have any need to build this model, then you would have no need for the human feedback. So, well, human feedback is required to train these models. Now, prior to generative AI and LLMs, there were no human feedback or human evaluators. But now, well, there are people who are doing that. So, like for me, like it looks like, well, it is creating jobs, right? There's a good example where it is creating jobs. Another example I can give is like, okay, you're building these models. So when you're building these models, you need side depth, okay, data scientists, okay, generative AI experts, okay. Who are these people? They are getting jobs, right? So it is creating jobs.
But again, like the skill set was completely different, right?
Yeah. So it's just that, okay, like in some of the sectors, okay, they will become redundant over a period of time. For example, FD job family, it's under like this huge scrutiny. Okay, why do we really have FD1 roles? Okay, when you have like all these generative AI applications, okay, where you can do vibe coding. So why do you need FD1s? Okay, uh, so they can just have system architect people. Okay, and they can design the architecture, they can design the workflows, and then the vibe coding platforms will do the coding. So well, yeah, FD job family, which used to be one of the biggest job families, okay, in terms of high paying jobs, okay, and like people used to get like crores of rupees, okay, per annum, in even in India, FD ones would get paid like 40 to 50 lakhs, okay, in the big time. So yeah, those job families are really under the like harm's way of generative AI. But well, when we really look at building these models, okay, and then deploying these tools,
Yeah.
it is going to create job in that field.
Yeah, but interestingly, that specific skills, that specific jobs requires some specific skills. Do you think do we have those expertise with those skills, and how can we develop those skills in upcoming generation and upcoming developers?
Yeah. So again, very good point. So I'll try to answer this with the help of an example. So very recently, I would say some of the IITs. Okay, I'll quote the Indian context, but I'm no longer in US. I'm back in India. So some of the IITs started courses on bachelors in AI. Okay. Is they used to all the colleges would have bachelors in computer science or computer engineering. There are some programs that are coming like in AI. Okay, or data science. For example, IIT Madras has this VS program in data science, which you are part of.
I am doing it.
So means AI as a field developed. Okay, and has been there. Okay, for almost a decade now. But these colleges, even the premier ones, okay, they started programs in the AI space only very recently.
Yes.
Just in the last 2 3 years.
And also, like nowadays, the computation is very accessible, so that each student can run all these models on their laptop itself.
Yeah.
And those
But
are
but
those experimentation.
but you see, like for AI's existence was there for a decade.
Yeah.
But the academic institutes only caught up like just 2 3 years back. There's specific programs on AI. And on generative AI, like, I don't really see any programs coming up because that field itself, okay, is so vast, okay. And if you look at the entire development, it has happened. It has received all the push from the corporate or like the startup space, okay, like the likes of OpenAI, Perplexity, and Anthropic. So all this knowledge, okay, right now exists with the people who are working in the industry, okay, who are building these models, who are building applications around it. uh, so for example, in when I was with Amazon, like I used to do internal sessions, okay, on generative AI for people in if I who are in the who are FDs or who are FDMs. In fact, 2 years back, I did a session for 2,000 people, like teach like showing them how to build agentic workflows. So like even within these companies, knowledge is all related to generative AI agents. It's concentrated among a few people. So they are leveraging their own and helping promote that education, all that learning. So I think industry is the main source of knowledge and innovation here. So I think time is now that academic institutes rope in all that industrial expertise, and which is also happening in some way. I think now government of India has mandated these practice professors, like who are people who are from industry, who bring that industry experience. So I think government of India is very well engaged in that thought process that we get industry expert because now a lot of things are now coming from industry rather than coming from the academic side. So industry people need to be leveraged here, okay, who have the relevant experience. And for students who are right now, like say maybe in a second or third year, okay, who are thinking of like internships, or final year students who are thinking about jobs, okay, uh, I would suggest that okay, you should pick up projects, okay, uh, like pick up projects, okay, work with your faculty members. If not, then pair up with industry people, or pair up with open source groups, okay, like AI Gurukul, okay, and you can then work on these cutting edge problems, okay, and learn about generative AI. How do you build applications around generative AI?
Yes, but then like I believe there is a still a bottleneck that holds student to explore these areas. Like there are some who say to do some generative AI task, you need some credits for some resources like OpenAI or Gemini. But students are not able to afford that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, uh, we were talking about job. Okay, like people who are working with all these LLM providers, like they are these are new companies, right? And they've created so many jobs, and their people are highly paid. So how are they paying their people? They are charging all these API costs, right? If you're using GPT-4 or Mini, or you're using some Gemini model, you have to pay per token. So, well, that has a cost. Definitely, it has a cost. Okay, and I think that is why it means it is important that even in universities, okay, try to provide some of these credits, okay, to the
Yeah.
students.
So in universities should come up and to support students for building such projects.
Right, exactly. And like it's not, so it's not just about these commercial LLMs. There are open source LLMs also available. Like if you have the relevant compute, okay, if you have GPU and all that, you can use those, okay, and you can even host those LLMs, okay, at least like the small size language models which are 3 billion parameter or 7 billion, like llamas 3.17 billion, like these are some of the models, okay, which you can host, okay, uh, or even in with limited GPU capacity. So like for those students who do not have the
But here I believe is the lack of awareness, kind of like where the student starts learning these kind of tool, and it these things like paid open keys come to in his way, and he gets demotivated. Yeah, and there is a lot of exploration.
yeah, so I think, I mean, I have come across people, okay, whom I have mentored, okay, or who I would say like had the benefit of mentoring such people, that I learned some of those challenges, okay, that they face, okay. So I think that's where it becomes important that you become associated with some groups, okay, some research groups, okay, some research labs, okay, or open source communities where they may have some pooled resources, okay, and because they have pooled resources, or maybe they have got better rates, okay. Okay, and then work with them, okay, and take the benefit of learning how to really use these LLMs to build application.
And also those communities have problem statements and that are actually really helpful, because like if I as a beginner with let's suppose say zero knowledge starts with these tools, I may be get distracted with the problem statement, or I may be working on some things that are not really important. But if I am a part of these organizations, these open source communities, I will be having a proper directional problem statement that have some importance.
Yeah,
Check and solve.
exactly. So one example that comes to my mind is like we can go and solve problems on Kaggle, okay, Kaggle.com, okay. Now Kaggle.com is very good for machine learning and AI related problems. There are lots of problems, lots of data sets, and lots of people who are coming and like sharing their code as well. But when it comes to generative AI, like now you are not really building a model here, because you are just, what you are doing is just using an LLM, okay. And now currently we are in the age of not just agents, okay, agents of agents. So there is a super agent which is building other agents, an army of agents. So all this becomes very complicated at an architecture level. So there's so many LLM calls happening, okay. Now, you may be enticed, okay, that okay, I should use really a big LLM, okay, that is going to be expensive, okay. If you're going to use a large language model, okay, it is going to be expensive. Now, if you really want to solve a problem, okay, and really learn how to build it in an optimal way, then you need to not just use the large language model, you also need to use medium size, small size language models, okay. So that different things, okay, like if you have a complex task at hand, okay, and you're trying to build an agent, you can use the large language model to solve the most complex problem, break it into smaller problems, and the smaller models, okay,
Maybe also.
yeah, which are maybe probably open source models, okay, you can use those to solve those smaller tasks, okay. uh so now all these things, okay, like all this exposure to using so many models, okay, so many LLMs. No, that you that is hard to find really on platforms like Kager, okay, or HackerRank, okay. So that's where really I would say you have to go a little bit retro in the sense that you have to really work with people. Like these virtual platforms are not good enough now, okay, to
Many of his seconds outdated, like because of these all activities are all these are relevant, all these technologies shifting towards Gen AI and all these things.
yeah. So like all the machine learning power, okay, and all getting concentrated into these large language models, okay. Now LLMs, okay, like if you want to host them, if you run them, it is extremely expensive, okay, like you would require multiples of A100s, H100s, okay. Then only you'd be able to host them. So hosting them, okay, hosting LLM is sort of out of it. But at least medium-sized language models or small-sized language models, if you know of them, if you know how to handle them, okay, you can host them and you can use them. And that's where you need to really, because now it's not just about software engineering or just machine learning, okay. It's everything. Like you need to know hardware, okay. You need to know how to host it. So it is also related to network and hardware aspects of it.
DevOps, LLM.
DevOps, okay. So it is all like so amalgamation of so many things. If you really want to get your hands dirty with these things, so that's where working with some people who are experienced, who have used LLMs, who have hosted medium-sized language models, small-sized language models, who have fine-tuned them.
Yeah, this will be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, will bring you a lot of advantage. It will just give you a head start rather than you struggling, okay, with a small model and then burning your GPU and burning your laptop. You really don't need to do that. Find out such open source groups, okay, who are doing that, or labs, okay, which are doing cutting edge work on fine tuning models, okay, or building language models. Try to find out such labs, okay, or research groups, okay, and then sort of uh, go and work with them. I think that will be the best way of really learning generative AI.
Yeah, and also that will be the best way to secure yourself in this advancing field. Like as we discussed, like all the jobs, all the traditional jobs are getting replaced, but there are some new jobs or new roles that are emerging that you should be getting familiarized with.
Yeah, so I will say like people are tossing that okay, this is the year of agents. Okay, I can like I with my experience. Okay, what I can vouch for is the year, if the year 2025 many people are saying okay is the year of agents, I would say the second half of year 2025 and the next year, okay, is going to be the year of small language models, because we are going to run out of our budgets, okay, on our GPU capacities, in terms of using large language models to build agents, okay. We will have to rely on small language models, okay, and we would require system architecture people who understand all the workflows, who can design these workflows end to end. So, uh, if we are really like, if you are a mid-career professional and you're wondering, okay, how should you really innovate? Okay, then I would say like spend time, okay, on understanding how you can build agents, okay, or how you can build agent of agents, okay. So, whereas to people who are in their second year, third year, or in the final year, okay, of course, you may be still seeing like the traditional jobs, FDs, okay, or technical program manager or DevOps engineer. You will be seeing these roles, okay. But to really future proof yourself, okay, against like loss of such jobs, okay. Now is the time to learn generative AI, agentic workflows, and fine tuning, okay, small language model. You need to learn all these things.
And even normally that the third year student, fourth year student, or the people interested in tech just should be learning all these things. I also believe the students or the professionals who are in other domains like banking, finance, or manufacturing, or suppose a pure sciences should also have a bit idea about it, like how all these things works and how this is implementable in their respective field.
Yeah. So see, like if you are like not a person who is in the technical job family, okay, you may not be knowing coding, okay, or maybe you are in leadership roles at different sectors, okay. Now is the time of vibe coding, okay, like all the vibe coding.
Impressive, uncle. Gold, a golden era for your Like it is good for you that you didn't learn the boarding, but now it's a good time to utilize all these leads to get your work done.
Exactly. So if you have a business problem in mind, now there are no code platforms. Okay, you can go design the workflow there. Maybe take help of some system architect. Okay, design the overall services, microservices, put them together. The code will be generated. Okay, by these like codec tools. Okay, and we can just put this like this agent or super agent into production. Okay, with the help of some of your DevOps engineers. But so you really don't need coding now as a knowledge. Okay, coding is no longer the barrier. Okay, for people in other job families other than the tech sector to really come and learn these generative AI applications.
At least you don't have to remember all those syntax and spend time on the errors. You can just ChatGPT it, or like you can use the tools like Cursor or to whiteboard it. Yeah, so like it's the golden era for every professional to take their work and automate it.
Exactly. So see, like with automation, you will end up doing you yourself will end up doing things, okay, which will be more innovative. Okay. So like if you're automating your job, okay, it does not mean that you are obsoleting yourself. It is just that you are doing it better, okay, and then you're finding time, okay, to do some more innovative things. Okay. And like that is what like everyone wants, okay, that you do more innovative things, okay, but now because some of the basic things are now being taken care by generative AI based applications. Now you do more innovative things, more creative things, and that will add more value to the society.
Yes, and exactly that what we also face like while building products in AI Gurukul for ourselves. Sometimes we provide solutions that are applicable for every other domain as well. Like we build a onboarding dashboard that is applicable for every domain. So using these tools, you are not just helping yourself, also you are building products that can be applicable to many other areas as well.
Yeah, so it's like saying that okay, in World War II, like radar was used by armies, okay, but now like radar is used in airspace in the aircraft navigation. Radar is used for maritime navigation as well, right? So, because any like if you are an open source research group, okay, and you're building these applications, okay, even for the sake of learning, you're still doing a larger social goal, like that's in truth for like AI for good, okay. AI for social good, that you are building these applications, you then putting them making them open source, okay, and so that lots of people can really use and benefit from it.
Is exactly like all the tools like GitHub is there, like where you can push your board and other can contribute on your board, like or others have initiated the project and you can contribute in their project, and there's a whole lot of possibilities over there.
Exactly.
So it was a great discussion from where we started, like from AI eating up all the jobs, and we discovered some pathway to secure yourself in this era where AI is everyone is scared of AI. So hopefully you find this video useful and helpful. And thanks for watching this video from AI Gurukul. Do visit up our website aigurukul.dev to understand how how we are contributing in this AI trend and making people aware of AI technologies. Thanks.